Hey guys, Erik Reed here, coming to you with another video in our Dumb It Down Pastor series. We're looking at the continuation of the question, who is God? We're looking at the question of who is the God of the Bible, who's revealed himself to us. And I was going to be honest with you, this is going to be one of those videos where I'm going to try to dumb it down. I'm going to try to really press it in. But some of these things, as we're talking about God, who is other than us and so far beyond us, we're going to sometimes bump into some brain cell popping ideas. And so I'm going to try to bring clarity to this, but I want you to really press in and catch where I'm going with this in this video. So the name of this video and what I'm talking about in this particular session is that God is all of his attributes all of the time. He is all of his attributes all of the time. Let me read a passage of scripture. This is from Exodus 3. You're probably familiar with this. You've probably heard the story. This is when God and Moses, the burning bush experience is happening, and this is what transpires. Verse 13, then Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And God answers and says to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. So when Moses wants to know, hey, who should I say is sending me to talk? Say, I am is sending you. And isn't it interesting that God's name is I am? That doesn't seem like a name. It seems like a state of being. It sounds like a condition. It's like, who should I say is sending me to you? I am. And here's what is being said here. And this is what theologians have just for thousands of years have tried to wrap their hearts and their heads around. God simply is. You can't define God or pull God into another category in order to define him. He simply is. God is who he is. That's who he tells Moses to say. Tell him the great I am is sending me. The one who is existent from all of eternity is sending me. So I want to talk a little bit about the God who is. And one of the things that makes God what he is his attributes. When we talk about who is God, what we're often getting into the heart of is what makes God God? What things are true of God that maybe aren't true of other people? Or what things are true of God and in some ways there are things that are not true of God? That's a little confusing, but what I'm going to be talking about in future videos is what are all the things that God is? And we often use words like attributes or characteristics to describe that. Let me give you an example. An attribute is a characteristic or a marker that's essential that makes somebody who they are. It's a quality of their existence. And so, for example, God has attributes. God has certain things that make him who he is. You have attributes of things that make you who you are. But here's what's really interesting. You could be somebody that is said to have the attribute of being funny. Okay? You have the attribute of being funny. But what's really interesting is that being funny isn't necessarily an attribute of what it means to be a human. Not every human is funny. You know some who are not funny. Not every attribute of being funny goes with a human. However, some humans are funny. They have that quality. They have that characteristic, okay? I want you to keep this in mind. From a human perspective, we get that. But God has attributes. And God doesn't have the attribute of sometimes being this thing and sometimes not being this thing. All that God is, he always is. All of his attributes, all of the time. And here's what I mean by that. In future videos, I'm going to talk about some specific attributes. In the next two videos, I'm going to get into one type of attributes that God has. In the next video, I'll get into a different kind of attributes. But let me just start by helping you explain or understand this. In all the videos we're going to do about God's attributes, it comes back down to this video, which is he's never flipping or switching in and out from one attribute to another. He's always all of his attributes. He's not moved to become loving. He's not moved to become merciful. He is love. He is mercy. God doesn't have love. He is love. He doesn't have wisdom. He is wisdom. He isn't attaining justness or righteousness. He is justice and righteousness. And that's so important. He is these things. He doesn't move from one to another. He doesn't do like we do. So we're not love. We have love. We are not love itself. We are not the essence of love. So sometimes we are loving and sometimes we are unloving. Sometimes we are merciful. Sometimes we are not merciful. We are moved into states of being. God is never moved in and out of states of being. I know this is mind-blowing. This is one of those like, what? God is always all of his attributes. He's always love. He's always just. He's always righteousness. In fact, what it means to be just and righteous and love is God. He's the fountain and the foundation of the attributes themselves. It's mind-blowing to think about. But here's what we mean sometimes by God is loving and sometimes he's not loving. It's not that he ever moves in and out. It's that often he demonstrates his love to us and sometimes he does not demonstrate. In other words, he's never changing. It's either we see that demonstration or we don't see that demonstration. We see a demonstration of his mercy or we don't see a demonstration of his mercy. But God is never changing. He's always what he is. He is I am. And the reason this is so important for us is that the more we know God as he is, the more that we can worship him and serve him and love him for who he is. So in the future videos, I'm going to talk more about what those attributes are, but what's important for us to realize even before we start exploring those is God is all of his attributes all of the time.